Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been a varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Currently, my daughter and I are coaching one of the best AAU teams in the country. Well, I think we're going to have a little bit of a controversial episode today. We're starting out with Selfish Saddiq. And I think if you've listened to this podcast throughout the year, you've noticed where I pointed out how many games that Saddiq plays where he gets 0 assists or maybe 1 assist. Currently, he's averaging 1.5 assists a game, though. But we're going to, and I pointed out, too, there's been a couple games where he's had a 2-on-1 fast break, and the defense is completely committed to him, and he did not pass the ball under the basket to the wide-open man. This thing happened again against the Mavericks. So we're down by 2 points, 107-105 with about a minute left. And Saddiq's man leaves him to double-team Bogey. Bogey passes the ball to Saddiq. He drives it to the basket. And Luka comes over, leaves Duren under the basket and comes to take Saddiq. Saddiq had a simple dump down pass to Duren for a dunk to tie the game, but instead he forced up this like wild hook shot, contested, and missed it. So, like I said, he doesn't look to pass. It's obvious he has the ball in his hands quite a few times, and he just looks to shoot. Is he the only player in the NBA that is selfish? No, he's not. There are a lot of players in the NBA that like to shoot the ball. I'm not sure though. He averaged over 2 assists last season. And so his assists have dropped, and I don't know if it's because he's up for an extension this summer that he feels the need to, or because he's been in and out of the starting lineup that he feels like he needs to score more, and he thinks that that's what's going to get him more minutes. And he has played really well. He shot the three. He had a big slump on threes. He's got it back up to 34%, but he's still shooting 40% from the floor and 34% on threes, but he's been on fire on threes, especially for quite some time now. So another thing that I noticed, I'm just watching the game, and then I notice, a Piston made a great dunk or a big three at a big moment, and the camera pans over to the bench, and they show the players jumping up and cheering and clapping, and I noticed Saddiq is just sitting there, motionless. He doesn't clap his hands. He doesn't move a muscle. He just sits there. And I watched again, and when they showed the camera again, and he did the same thing. So that was, I think, against the Hornets that I noticed that. So then tonight against the Suns, I got to watch, and he had a great game tonight, but he didn't play as much in the first half, and he was, I don't know if he was, I'm not sure if that's what Saddiq always does. I'm not sure if I know he's not a very loud guy. I know he's kind of quiet and stuff, but it's just as weird that you don't cheer at an exciting play, and when you got everybody else that's sitting by you that's jumping up out of their seats to cheer for their teammates. So that's just interesting to me, and I know Saddiq, has been rumored in trades. We'll see what happens. He is, like I said, he's playing pretty well lately, and I'm not saying that he's, we don't want him anymore. I mean, I think if we traded for a good young player, we would look for guys like him that maybe would fit in better with our team. So there was another time in the game against the Suns. There was we had the ball at close the end of the half. It's still a real close game against the Suns, and we get the ball, and Killian's dribbling it out front, running the clock down so that, we can take the shot clock isn't exactly set with the game clock, but Saddiq forces a drive, takes a tough shot and misses it, but he drives and shoots. There are 6 seconds left on the shot clock. So that gave the Suns time to drive down, and they made a three. And that really kind of took the wind of our sails, and those were big shots. And Greg Kelster said even, that was, Pistons made a mistake. They should have held the ball longer. They didn't need to rush and shoot. But that was, again, Saddiq, because I think he does look to score and he wants to score. So Uh, Going to talk a little bit about confidence. I was a coach for a long time, and I still see it in games, especially with young players. Confidence is a huge thing. So I'm not sure the exact stat. I heard it just the other day, but Stu, going into tonight, I think he was 0 for his last 17 on threes, and hadn't made one in 13 games. So that was, that's not good at all. And he started out the year a little bit slow. Then he picked it up and he was shooting at over 40% for quite a stretch. And it was really encouraging because we do, everybody believes, including myself, that his best position is the 4. He has shown signs of catching the ball, and when they try to close out on him, taking it to the basket. And now, not only has he, finished some drives, but he's also became a better passer, and he started to get more assists on play. So, but tonight, against the Suns, I think he might have missed his first 5, and so I don't know. He missed at least, I think, 20 in a row, but then he made 3 in a row in the third quarter, and he said that Coach Casey and his teammates have just kept encouraging him to shoot the 3. And this is a thing that we need to, iron out this year. We need to find out what he can do, and I'm confident he's going to become a decent, solid 3-point shooter, and I think that the league average is up to 36. So, when guys are shooting, we just like guys to shoot 33%, but it's the average for the entire league is 36. So if he can get somewhere near there, and I think he could even get slightly above that, he's going to be, a real productive player for us. Killian just was struggling so terrible at the beginning of the season. His confidence was rock bottom, and then Cade went out, and he started to get and he started to get significant minutes every game consistently. Well, now Coach Casey has decided that he was going to start, and I agree with Coach Casey. I mean, he's starting what seems to be our 5 best players, and that's Ivey and Burks and Bogey and Stewart and Duren. So I agree that I'm not positive that that's the best way to fit for our team. I'm not positive that we could have started Killian if he was not the way he's playing currently, but the way he was playing before. Have Burks come off the bench, but like I've said a million times, Burks was not playing enough minutes. He was only getting 20 minutes. I think it's more than possible. Other teams do it. Have guys come off the bench and still get 30 minutes. You put them in 6 minutes into the game, and then you start rotating guys. Even Saddiq, he's been, not starting lately because Casey's been using that same starting lineup I just said, but he's still getting over 30 minutes, and he's been playing in the fourth quarter, and most times deservedly so because he's played so well. And so, but he's struggled so bad, and it's just, again, we need to find out, and we need him to be a good player. I was sure, and I was very confident that we had a really nice, solid NBA guard, whether he came off the bench or whether he started if we needed him to. And right now, the way he's playing, he's not. So, he's 6 for 21 in the last 3 games shooting, and so I'm not sure what's going to happen, but anyway, I'd just like to give a shout out to Jenna Schroeder. She is from Clio, Michigan, which is just north of Flint, and she played college basketball at Oakland University in Saginaw Valley, and she has reffed 2 of our games, including tonight's game with the Suns. So she's an NBA referee. She does a nice job, and it's pretty cool that we have a person from Michigan. And she's doing a great job. I also want to give a shout out to Nate Oates. So last podcast, I talked about Nate Oates is the head coach at Alabama, and I expressed my opinion that he would be an outstanding NBA coach someday, and that at the end of this year, if we let go of Casey, that we might hire him. I gave out some different ideas also, but I think he owes me some money because a day or 2 after I put that on the podcast, he got a 6-year extension. So I'm sure it's for a lot of money. I still am sure there's a buyout clause in there if he does go to the NBA, but it might, he's probably getting a lot of money. He's probably getting thousands of dollars, and he probably is planning on staying there. So we'll see. But again, it just was a funny coincidence that I said that he could be the next coach of the Pistons, and then he gets an extension. So next thing I would like to talk about is this thing that people have in their head that I hear them talk about it all the time, different people, about the Pistons demanding an unprotected pick. So we're not going to take just any first-round pick. We're only going to take unprotected picks. And so, well, if we're getting next year's pick, we can tell that, where the picks might even fall. And if we're getting a pick from a contender, it's going to be, in the 20s. So the Lakers, that's one place where we, their only picks they have available are the 2027 and 2029 picks. So the Lakers could be real bad by then. So those picks might be high. So my thought is, though, you can protect those, even if those are protected to like 5, protected for the first 5 picks or the first 10 picks. It's not bad. And we could even do that with other teams. The Phoenix Suns is a team I'd like us to trade with. So here's my big trade. There's always these trades that people are throwing out there, fake trades. And I would like to see us trade Bojan to the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns have all their first-round draft picks left. So they have Jay Crowder, who doesn't even play for them. He started for them last year, but they're paying him to not play. And so there's a lot of rumors, a lot of teams that want him, especially the Milwaukee Bucks, and they've even granted Crowder permission to talk to the Bucks. So if we traded Jay Crowder, if the Suns traded Jay Crowder to the Bucks and the Pistons traded Bogey to the Suns, and then we could get back one of the Suns' first picks. Currently, would be the 18th pick. That's where they're at right now. But my thought is that that pick's going to get to be in the 20s because they're going to get better and better. So they've been winning. As soon as Booker went out, they started to struggle really bad, and then they've turned it around. So the last 12 games or so, they have had a real good percentage, and they beat the Celtics in Boston yesterday, and then they beat the Pistons tonight. So that pick's going to be fairly high, but we can get a pick from the Bucks. And then the Pistons, again, the beauty that we have to offer other teams is we have some cap room, so we can help with trades and we can make the money work. We also have, Noel that we can throw in there. We have a lot of players that we could use to make the trade work better. So anyway, we can even give them, I don't know if we would ever throw in Burks or what we would do, but I doubt that. But anyway, so that's my trade that I would like to see happen. I think I'm not sure, you can go to Trade Machine and see how to make it work. But if we could get first round pick for the Suns. So the Suns are giving up a player who they don't really want. And the Bucks are getting Crowder, who they really want. And the Suns are getting Bogey, who they really want. So for them to give a first round pick to us, and technically we would be, get the Bucks trade, that I think that would be a great trade for us. And I'm not sure that they would do it, but I think that makes a lot of sense to me. So Joe Dumars is I don't know if you realize it, he's the head of the NBA. He hands out the suspensions. So he's like the Gestapo for the NBA. And last night there was a fight with Mobamba and Rivers got into a scrap, and there's some swings, some punches thrown. I don't know how many connected. Suggs grabbed Rivers by the neck and pulled him down. So why I bring that up is they are playing Charlotte, and Charlotte's one of the teams we are battling for, those bottom 3 spots, and to get that 14% chance to get Wemby. So Suggs and Mobamba, I don't think are going to be able to play tomorrow. So we'll see. That might, help us, or it might not. But last shout out I'd like to give to my brother Tim, who's one of my most faithful listeners. My other brother Rusty is also a very faithful listener, and he just had his birthday in January. But Tim is 64, and he can still hit home runs on a 300-foot fence in the senior softball league in Florida. So shout out to Tim and happy birthday. Happy birthday to Russ, who's really been encouraging for me, and his son has been a huge help for this podcast. So let's just jump into the games and talk about the game tonight with the Suns. Boys, so there's some exciting things watching the Pistons. People get discouraged about them losing, but we were making this big comeback. We were down by 15, and Ivey gets a steal. He races up the court, whips a long pass to Bogey. Bogey catches it and instantly whips it behind his back to Burks in the corner, and Burks makes a three. And ironically, Saddiq just sits there. But it really got our team, it got the crowd just going crazy, and it was a great play. So that's still fun things to watch when you're a Piston fan. They lost 116 to 100. And again, it's been a reoccurring problem. We have struggled with big guys, and Ayton ate us alive tonight. He was 13 for 15, and so he had 31 points, and we could not stop him. Chris Paul, I think that this was the first game since 2017 that he has been held without a basket. He made 2 free throws, but he was 0 for 7. He typically doesn't score a lot anymore. He has games here and there where he does score. He has that little fadeaway jumper at the elbow that he usually can make whenever he wants, but he didn't make it tonight. There was one time I loved it. Duren got isolated with him, and he's making these moves. Chris Paul is going between his legs and stuff, and Duren is just staying right with him. And then he pulls up to shoot a fadeaway, and he's out further than he's the elbow. And Duren makes a hard contest, and he misses the shot. But that was real impressive on Duren's part. So, but they shot the lights out. Again, our defense is not good. 56% from the floor, 48% on threes. The Suns shot. The Pistons were 43% from the floor and only 38%, which 38% is not bad. But once again, we get hammered in the paint. We 54 to 30, so that's always a big factor. But what's ironic is we scored 20 points on second chance points to 11 for the Suns. So this is another thing that's happened. So it's not just, it's not like they had some size. So they had 2 other big guys, that Sarich, who did a really good job against us, but that's not like the teams are getting offensive rebounds and pounding in on us. So anyway, Bogey had another great game tonight. He was 23 points, 8 for 17, 4 for 10 on threes, and just playing really well. He had a little stretch where he wasn't quite as effective, but he was tough. Duren got to play 28 minutes, but it really hurt us. He picked up his 3rd foul, 10 minutes left in the second quarter, so that was a tough thing. But he grabbed 6 rebounds and 3 assists. And, I mean, this guy, he doesn't just make the easy assist. He makes some big-time passes. So tonight somebody whipped him the ball way down the court, and they overshot him, and the ball was going out of bounds. The ball is out of bounds. He jumps in the air, catches it, turns to the opposite corner in the air, and fires it out to Bogey for a 3, and Bogey drains it. So that was another really cool play. So, to have 3 assists, to be a big guy playing 28 minutes, and he doesn't get that many touches, but that was fun. So Ivey had 13 points, 5 for 3, 13, 2 for 5 on threes. But what's disappointing is 1 for 5 on free throws. We'll talk about more of him later. Killian, again, like I said, he struggled. He was 1 for 6 tonight, 1 for 3 on threes, 1 for 2 on free throws. So at one point, he shot a free throw, and he missed it really bad. And one of the Pistons got a hand on it and tipped it out to him at the 3-point line. And he shot it wide open, and he barely grazed the rim. So tonight, again, I called him Selfish Saddiq, but he was huge, had a fantastic game, 25 points, 7 for 12, great shooting percentage, 4 for 8 on threes, 7 for 7 on line. So anytime you're shooting 50% on threes and getting to the line that many times, you really help your team. And 5 rebounds, but the best stat of all was 4 assists. I don't remember the last time or if he's ever had 4 assists all year. He also had 2 steals. So he's playing he's playing hard. He's playing tough. I just would like to see him look to share the ball, especially 2-on-1, to dump it to the guys wide open under the basket. And I'd love to see him. I just think it is important. I've been a part of teams, and it's just so much better when everybody on the team supports each other and gets excited for each other. Hami, 4 for 8, another good game. It just cracks me up. Hami gets the ball in transition, he gets a rebound or a steal, and he drives it, and there can be, 3 players right in the lane, and there's no place for him to go, and somehow he just takes it through them, over them, around them, and he scores. And again, he shot a great percentage. And the question for me though is, what happens to Hami this year? His contract's up, so I have heard his name mentioned a few times in trades, especially not as just straight up 1-for-1, but to include him if we traded one player or 2 players in a package. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting to see how much money he makes in free agency. He certainly is a weapon and a great player to bring energy and shoot at a high level coming off the bench and to spark your team. So now we're going to go back to our victory over the Hornets, 118-112. But I'm not diminishing. It's still a win's a win, I know. But the Pistons, they got stuck in Dallas because of the ice storm. But they were so well rested. They had one good hard practice, and some of the announcers thought that maybe was a detriment by not playing. But they were very well rested. When we played Charlotte, they had played the night before in Chicago. So they had to fly to Chicago, then fly to Detroit, and play back-to-back. And I can just tell you my experiences. I'd rather, if it were my team and I got to choose, I would take those days off. Because I just know even how the players I've coached on back-to-back days just don't have it the next day. Even when we have practice the day after a game, it's just harder for people to play. So Greg was impressed with our team and said how amazing they were to come back. We had 22 turnovers, which is bad. And on top of it, the Hornets scored 30 points. So you cannot win a game if you have 22 turnovers and give up 30 points off turnovers, except unless you're playing the Hornets. I mean, the Hornets are bad. And I will say this: I think we have some guys who aren't great athletes who don't defend that great, and we have young players who need to be better at defense, including Jaden Ivey. But with the Hornets, I see a lot of guys that don't seem to even try, except when they're on offense. And PJ Washington, he was 3 for 15 and jacking up shots. LaMelo, he gets to be the star. He scored 20-some points, but he took 23 shots. He was 7 for 23. And his shot's not good. His shot needs to be fixed also. He shoots it from his left eye. And I give his brother, and it's sad, his brother Lonzo plays now for the Bulls, but he was hurt last year. They were in first place last year when Lonzo went down. And since then, things have just gone from bad to worse for them, and he hasn't even played this year, and it's not looking like he's going to get to play this year. But the thing I was impressed, New Orleans has one of the greatest and one of the best shooting coaches that was one of their assistants, and Alonzo completely reworked his shot. He completely shot it and held it in front of his left eye. He's right-handed and moved the ball. Well, it's really hard to be consistent that way, but he reworked his shot. He became a 40% three-point shooter. So props to him for that. But LaMelo hasn't done that. He just takes, it's just like he doesn't care. I love LaMelo. I love his passing. He didn't make that many great passes against the Pistons, but he has such a flair, and he can really handle the ball. He's tall and rangy, and he can make these. Even when he makes a simple pass, it's a lot of times it's with flair. But I just see that team. The effort is lacking, and they missed a lot of free throws against us, and they shot poorly, and so as good as it was that we came and won that game, and we had some good performances, a lot of it is because the Hornets aren't very good, and so Greg Kelser, it's just not as great accomplishment if you're beating and coming back and beating a bad team. That's really bad. So, but Bogey had a great night. He, 21 points, 8 for 14, 4 of 7 on threes. Stu had 8 points, only 3 for 12 and 0 for 2 on threes. But he had 16 rebounds and 6 assists. And when your post player is getting 16 rebounds and 6 assists, only 28 minutes, that's impressive. So Stu had 8 points. Oh, I just said that. Sorry. Duren had 13 points, 6 for 8, which, he's shooting about 70%. And he had 13 rebounds and 2 assists. So that's, they've been working good together. They've been, passing to each other. And, that it's just, I think, going to be a dynamic front court going forward in the future. Saddiq had 22 points, 8 for 16, which is great, and 3 for 8 on threes, which is still solid, 3 for 4, and he had 8 rebounds and 2 assists in 30 minutes. So really good game for Saddiq. Burks had 16 points, 5 for 12, 2 for 7 on threes, and 4 for 5 on free throws, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and he played 26 minutes. So I still, Burks is one of our best players, and I don't think he's quite shot. His first 2 games he started, he shot really well, but I don't think he's shot as well recently. But he's still one of our best players, and he's still going to be on the trade market. But Killian, 4 points against the Hornets, 2 for 6 and 0 for 1 on threes, 5 assists, 3 turnovers. Hami, 7 points, 3 for 4. But unfortunately, he's 1 for 4 on free throws, and he shot an air ball. He is struggling from the line, and he's not a good outside shooter, but I think, and he's probably not a great free throw shooter, but again, what I talked about, confidence with Killian and with Stu on his threes, that impacts players, and they're human, and he's struggles from the line. But the star of that game was Jaden Ivey, and we see him, and he is up and down. But that game against Charlotte, he played 29 minutes only, 24 points, 8 for 11 from the floor shooting, 4 for 4 on threes, 4 for 4 on free throws, 8 assists, and 1 turnover. That's a game where we had the 22 turnovers. He had the ball in his hands. He ran the offense. He made the simple passes, 1 turnover, but 8 assists and 24 points on only 8 shots. That, do the math. That's incredible. So, Ivy, I think if you look back at his season so far, I bet he's had 12 really, really outstanding games. Maybe none any better than the game against Charlotte, but he's had probably 12 really bad games, and then he's had another probably, over 12 games that are kind of in between somewhere. But he has shown signs, and again, for Piston fans that are discouraged about us losing, he is certainly, there's a bright, chance for hope with him that he could turn out to be a really amazing player. Going to talk about the Mavs really quick. We ended up losing 111 to 105. Luka had 53 points, 17 for 24, 14 for 18. From the free throw line, 18 free throws. Wow. 5 for 11 on threes, and he was just hard to stop. We doubled him in the second quarter, and he didn't hardly score in the second quarter. But Bogey that game was unreal. He didn't get the shots that Luka does, but he scored 29 points, 10 for 15 from the floor, and 4 for 7 on threes, 5 for 5 on free throws, 5 rebounds. He was tough. And Duren was really good that game. He had 9 points and 4 for 4. But that was the game where, if you're for tanking, and you just, that game that we lost, you don't want to blame one person, and certainly it isn't one person's fault. But Killian was 3 for 16 and 2 for 10 on threes. And in the second half, he was 0 for 5 on threes. So, he kind of shot us out of the game. Points in the paint in that game. And Dallas does not have this big, powerful front line, but we got outscored 52 to 26. And, so that's just tough. We just got to find a way to stop penetration better, and we got to be able to keep Duren and Stu on the floor a little bit more. and I think we'll be in a lot better shape. But I really appreciate everyone that listens. If you can, do me a huge favor and tell a friend. If you know anybody that loves the Pistons, please tell them about this podcast. And if you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe. It's free. Leave a thumbs up. If you're listening on Spotify, you can leave a 5-star review. And again, just share it with somebody else. But please do something nice for someone today. Give them a hand in some way, or just say a kind word. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. And go Pistons.